all the games I used to play in my younger, wilder days. The game of clubs and tees, it never crossed my mind. But after some discussion with my closest, dearest friends, I decided that I'd give it one good try.
Welcome into another episode of the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast. My name is Andrew Putters, and I'm here with my partner, Joe Nicely, lead editor at Rotoballer.com. Joe, what has Rotoballer got going for us in 2021?
Yeah, man, we're really excited about 2021. I feel like we've got a great package put together for you guys. You can go over there now and use promo code NICE, N-I-C-E, to sign up for our PGA Premium subscription. We got showdown slates added this year. Got an amazing DFS research station over there. Josh Bennett pops out a course breakdown every week. Spencer does great betting articles. So we really hope you'll check that out. We also have a ton of free stuff. Obviously, we encourage you to look at that also. But I hope you'll visit rotoballer.com.
That's right, rotoballer.com, number one place for your daily fantasy needs. Let's get right to it, Joe. No time to waste this week. I've got impending travel plans bearing down on me as we speak. So let's just let's hit where it's hot. We had a Jordan near I don't even know what to call it.
Is it fair to call it a sighting, Spieth sighting?
Yeah, I mean we were almost had our answers to the question: is Jordan gone forever? You know, comes out Thursday, hits it all over the map, makes every putt he looks at. Comes out the next day, hits it pretty good, and don't make many putts. Comes out Saturday, hits it amazing, makes every putt he looks at. Shoots 61, puts him in a tie for the lead with one of his very good friends, Xander Schauffele. They go to the fourth round, and both of them have a just torrential meltdown after meltdown after meltdown. We thought maybe Xander had righted the ship, and then for whatever it seemed like Jordan was out of it. But I mean, if you don't hit it in the water on the par five there, I mean, who knows, right? So,
yeah.
I don't even know what to say. We can say one thing, and as far as if you look at Twitter and what's trending, and there's only two players in the world that can excite the fan base, and it seems to be Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth. What's your comeback from this past weekend?
Yeah, man, really fun tournament. Phoenix is kind of always seems to be great every year, and it didn't disappoint this year, man. That Saturday from Jordan, the 61 was just electric, like you said. One of the few players that actually moves the needle kind of to the casual golf fan, not just us hardcore guys. But yeah, Twitter was blowing up, man. Love to see it. It was almost like kind of like real golf, man. You know how when you go out there and you struggle and you struggle and you struggle, and then maybe you hit a great shot on 18, or you knock a 20-footer in on 18 for a birdie. That was kind of me last week, man. I was really, really down with the Daniel Berger missed cut. I sent you a text, and I was so frustrated, which doesn't happen to me very often, but it did this week with Berger. And then Saturday I was right back in. Jordan got me right back in with that round, man. There's just something about him that you can't take your eyes off of him when he's playing well. Would certainly love to see it, but you know, I wasn't surprised that he didn't follow it up great Sunday. Really tough to follow around like that up, but I was more surprised with Xander and kind of how he faded and just didn't take that tournament by the throat. There for the taking for him. I think he's one of the, unquestionably a top 10 player in the world, maybe top 5. He's been unbelievably consistent and just couldn't get it done, man. Struggled from inside 100 yards, struggled chipping. Kind of a Finau-like performance. I saw some people saying that, and that's probably pretty fair. I don't think we can throw Xander in the Finau basket quite yet, and I actually think he'll win pretty soon. But certainly didn't have his best stuff Sunday, and didn't take that one by the throat when he had an amazing chance to win. Probably should have won. And Brooks, man, out of nowhere, kind of, couple people were on him. Some of our buddies bet him. He was at like a sick 50-1 number or something. I think our buddy Joe I had him, so congrats, Joe. But Brooks kind of coming out of nowhere and grabbing the thing by the horns when nobody seemed to want to win. So just a really, really fun week, man. Good to see Jordan back. Good to see Brooks back. Good to see Xander in there. Really excited about this season as a whole going forward, man. I think it's going to be really, really fun. And this week we had to Pebble Beach.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if it was like this nationwide, but for us, they had a local break in the action, and all of a sudden you come back and it shows that Brooks is leading by 2, and nobody knew what happened. So that was
Man,
terrible.
don't even get me started on the TV coverage.
That was terrible, first of all. But yeah, nobody saw Brooks coming. I heard a stat that today that on the last 6 holes at that golf tournament, he was 15 under. So 19 of his 15 under was on those last 6 holes. And not only was that chip in he had incredible, but it was not an easy up and down, and he held it. So it was a great tournament. Like I said, even as bad as Jordan and Xander looked, they were still there with 4 holes to go. I mean, they were standing on 15T with a chance. But neither one of them really, as bad as they hit it, they really didn't make any putts. That's for number one. Like, especially Jordan, I saw him several, probably 3 straight holes or 3 holes on the front 9, especially being like 9 or 10 to 15 feet and just leaving it short. I saw a lot of people leaving it short actually on Sunday. Most golf I've watched this year on a Sunday, let me throw that out there, probably because it was Super Bowl and we didn't have anything planned. So I watched basically all the coverage Sunday, then sat down and sat through that Super Bowl, which was hard to watch as well. It's just complete domination by one team over the other, outcoached, outplayed, out executed. Other than that, I mean, like you said, good tournament. And it seems that this tournament, this Phoenix Open, it is exactly what the PGA Tour needs from a viewing perspective. Take the fans out of it. Let's just say, I mean, I know that hole 16 is exciting, but you've got 2 reachable par 5s with trouble on them. Also a drivable par 4 in there with trouble on it, and then a short par 3 that when the fans are there is intimidating. So it's a great last 5-6 holes for a tournament, and it's exactly what the PGA Tour needs as far as viewership, in my opinion, on TV. They can still hit it all over. Go ahead.
It's perfect. It's the perfect lead up to the Super Bowl. You got a lot of sports fans hungry for something to watch, kind of getting ready for the Super Bowl, and it's just absolutely the perfect venue, the perfect tournament, perfect atmosphere. That finishing stretch is one of the most exciting in golf, and that field just continues to be super strong every year. So yeah, man, really love the Phoenix tournament. Always look forward to it, and it didn't disappoint again, man.
No, it did not. No, it did not. Moving on this week, big tournament, change in the venues though. This is the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. It's been there for like a million years. I'm gonna say like since the 30s. Yeah, since the late 30s, it's been played. This tournament's been played. Started by Bing Crosby, where he used to bring his friends out and they'd play a celebrity pro and a celebrity Pro-Am. It's been held at several different courses, but since basically the late 70s, it's been held at the main 3 courses: Monterey Peninsula, Spyglass Hill Golf Course, and Pebble Beach Golf Links, which would also host the final round. This year, there's a change due to COVID. No Pro-Am this year, and they're shortening it down to just Spyglass and just Pebble Beach. So as far as that goes, Joe, what is that going to cause much change in the whole setup? I know they're going down to 2 courses, just cutting one out. Seems that they set Pebble up pretty easy historically for this event. I mean, they can still take it deep in this tournament. I mean, don't you agree?
Yeah, you might see it play a little bit tougher this year because the amateurs aren't there. I think a lot of times they're kind of forced to set it up easy for the amateurs, and I'm actually really excited, man, about this change. Kind of like the Amex a couple weeks ago, we're going from 3 courses to 2, no Pro-Am, and a 36-hole cut instead of a 54-hole cut. All huge improvements, in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of the Pro-Am format. I know some people might like it. I guess it's good for TV with the celebrities and stuff, but kind of for the diehards like us, do not mind seeing the 7-hour rounds that we sometimes see in this thing. So I'm actually excited about the change. Pebble Beach is one of the most iconic golf courses in the world. And I've always kind of wondered why we throw a Pro-Am on it instead of just letting these guys play. But I'm really excited about the changes, man. I think it's going to be a good tournament this year. Better than usual anyway. So we'll see how it goes. Spyglass is going to play a little bit easier than Pebble. And as always, it's going to come down to the weather. I think we got a couple days where we might see some wind and kind of rough weather. That's really the golf course's big defense is the weather. So I think it'll be as tough as the weather is. So if guys can go deep, if there's calm conditions, clear conditions. Wind gets up though, it can get really tough. I mean, we've seen U.S. Opens played here, so it can be very difficult. I'm looking for guys with experience here. Really tough on first timers. This course is tricky, so I'm looking for experience, course history. Looking for good iron players that can hit greens. These are very, very small greens. Looking for good scramblers as a result of the small greens. I'm not too worried about off the tee or distance this week. It's one of those weeks where we can kind of toss that out. So approach, scrambling, maybe lean POA putters and guys with course experience.
Yeah. Back to what you was talking about the golf courses, man. I'm looking forward to see if they do toughen it up a little bit, because you see a lot of times, it gets up into the 20s, 20 under, and they just usually, because they have soft pin placements, they need to for the amateurs. And like you said, that be interesting if they set up a little tougher, because you're not going to get the course type like a U.S. Open style, but you probably might still get the pin positions and the green speed. I don't know. This field, really too many past champions to even start mentioning, but it seems like the guys that win here. If that makes any sense. Snedeker's won twice. Mickelson's won 5 times. Who else has won multiple times? There's no person. Davis Love won a couple times back in the day. Obviously, Tiger won here. DJ's won a couple of times. That's why he about won the U.S. Open here when he shot that 83 in the final round a few years back. But several past winners. Like you said, distance is not going to be a factor. A lot of these winners that you're seeing are guys that literally are the best scramblers. When you get back to Snedeker in his prime, Jordan Spieth, obviously, they just get in the hole. Speaking of Jordan Spieth, sicko jump on the price. Let's just go right into DraftKings. We're going to have to break the top up in 2 levels. You got Okay. It's
a Rubik's Cube this week, buddy.
It's going to be hard. So, you got DJ and Cantlay. DJ's 12, Cantlay's 11-3. I mean, those are astronomical numbers. DJ coming off a win overseas. In normal circumstances, I love him here. He's playing great. But I mean, you got to think as the flight. I've been on one of those trips, and it takes longer than a week to get over that. So,
yeah, we're gonna touch on that in just a second.
Yeah, so DJ Cantlay at the top. The next 1B is going to be Casey and Berger, who Casey's played great here in the past as well. Remember him and Mickelson got into the huge fight a couple years back over finishing or not. And Casey made him come back on Monday, which probably the right decision, but it did not make Mickelson happy. So they're 1B, 10-4 and 10-1. Let's start there and work our way down, Joe. What are you thinking in those 2 ranges there? Are you taking any of those 4 players?
I mean, DJ's head and shoulders above this field, right? So, I mean, we have to look hard at him at 12. But even though he's DJ and he can certainly blow this field away, and he's won this event twice, back in 2009, 2010, I think. Had 5 top 5s here since then. So there's the pedigree of how great of a player he is. There's the recent form. Obviously closed out last year on a kind of a historical run. As you mentioned, just won last week in Saudi Arabia at the Saudi International. But that little tidbit there has me a bit concerned. We mentioned he has 5 top 5 since winning back-to-back. But, Andrew, he's played in Saudi Arabia the last 3 years. And in his 2 AT&T starts since doing that, he's got a T45 and a T32. So, obviously, that trip, as you mentioned, is not being too kind to DJ at Pebble. So that's my concern with DJ this week. That being said, he's DJ. He can certainly win this event, but he is 12K. And that's something we want to think about. Cantlay is an excellent player. I'm just having trouble pulling the trigger on him at this price tag. He played extremely well at the Amex in his last start, had a runner-up after a massive heater over the weekend. Had a T11 at this golf course last year. Also has a T9 on his Pebble Beach track record. So he's a player that can certainly play well. We don't have the concern of the jet lag, but we do have a little bit of concern about the weather. It's supposed to be pretty cool there this week. Cantley's had back issues in the past, so that's something to consider. So you think these guys are really the top two kind of unquestioned players in this field, but I feel that both do have some concerns. And in addition to that, man, as we start working our way down the salary scale, pricing is just really tough. The field's pretty gross, and they're tough to get in this week. So that's my thoughts on the top two, man. What are you thinking up there?
I mean, after you throwing, I'm never usually going to pick the top guy no matter what because of the price, losing all the value on the bottom side. But I love Cantlay, but I still think at 11-3, it's going to be the basically winner go home with that price. Dropping down to Casey Berger. I love Casey on this because he's going to hit probably every green. I mean, I know that's not a huge factor, but these greens are huge, or these greens are smaller than average on tour, very undulated. So he's going to be on and putting it birdie. So he does not make a ton of mistakes ball striking wise, and that's going to be that's why he seems to always just be there in this tournament, not necessarily winning it, but always being there. Berger on the Heartbreak City last weekend. I don't know, man.
That one hurt, man. That one hurt.
Yeah, I don't know about him. Nobody saw that coming at all. He was hugely owned across the board in DraftKings, and I think probably the cat's meow here is at 9,900. That's where everybody's going to be highlighting the top name, and I expect major ownership at that price against this field. What are your thoughts on that?
You talking about Willie Z?
Willie Z, baby, Willie Z.
I love him, man. I love him. I was in heavy last week on him and Berger actually. Zalatoris played great. I actually had a really good chance to finish much higher than he did. I think he had a T17 last week, but played great again, man. Berger, it's a good bounce back spot. I don't know if I can emotionally do it, but it makes sense. He's got a T5 and a T10 and 2 starts here. Kind of makes you wonder why he hadn't played this tournament more often, but just kind of a natural bounce back spot, maybe a buy low. His ownership might take a dip after a miscut, and with him being priced up over 10. Casey, you mentioned working back up to him. Great course history. He's played really well here. Won in Abu Dhabi a couple weeks ago. But like DJ, he played in the Saudi International event last week, so he's going to be making that trip, which is a concern. So yeah, man, when you take into account the high pricing, when you take into account the lack of depth at the bottom of the salary scale, like you mentioned, man, Zalatoris, even though this is a week I want to lean on course history, Zalatoris has a start here back in 2018. I'm not sure if he's an amateur or just turned pro, made the cut, but man, he makes sense just because he's so good. Even though you want to kind of lean course history and veteran experience, he's just playing so well, man. Tee to green and on approach, exactly what we're looking for here. That he makes sense there at 99. And then when you go below him, your options are interesting. You got Jordan, you got Day, you got Siwoo, you got Molinari. Those are some money makers and some heartbreakers right there, baby. So if you don't go with Zalatoris, you're taking a stab in that range. I mean, we can talk about Jordan Spieth if you want to. We obviously got to. He's won this tournament before and looked alive for the first time in years last week. Actually, last weekend was the first time he looked alive since this tournament last year. Had a T9 here last year, Andrew, even when his game was in shambles. Former winner here in 2017. This is the type of track where he can succeed, man. Off the tee is not a big deal this week. He's going to be clubbing down a lot on dog legs and kind of forced short drives here. So, you feel like the driver isn't going to get him in too much trouble. His irons were beautiful last week, man. Led the field in strokes gained approach. I think that might be the thing that's going a little bit overlooked about that performance last week. Gained 7.8 strokes with his irons. That's what he needs to find. He's never been great off the tee, never been a massive driver, never been extremely accurate. But when he was winning majors, everybody talks about the putting, but he was the best iron player on the PGA Tour. And that's what I was so impressed with last week, his iron play. So it's gross. It's sick. but I'll probably have a little bit of exposure, man. I'll probably grab a little bit of exposure to Spieth. Let's talk about him. Tell me what you're thinking about him, then we'll get into the rest of the nines. But we got to get your Spieth take.
I mean, I was really thinking that we were going to get him about 8,100 this week, and he was going to be an automatic guy to have him. Maybe get him at 30 something to 1 on the odds. Maybe even close to 40 to 1. That's probably where he should be mathematically, and we was going to be jumping all over that. But that just didn't happen. so I mean, he's going to be X'd off every list I've got. I can't spend 9,700 even up against Jason Day. I mean, I would think the Malnati makes more sense at 93 than Jordan does at 97. I mean, am I wrong?
Molinari is very interesting, man. You're getting a little bit of a discount from that Spieth Zalatoris Day range, and he's really coming into form. He's another guy. I mean, we talk about Jordan. Molinari is another guy that dropped off the face of the planet after winning the Open Championship. But he's looked really, really good, and in his 2021 starts, has 2 top 10s in 2 starts this year. Over the last 12 rounds, he's 11th in this field in strokes gained approach, and he's 4th in strokes gained around the green. Both things we're looking at. Hadn't played in this event, but had a T16 in the U.S. Open here at Pebble Beach in 2019. If the winds get up, the weather gets bad, you kind of like Molinari in that situation as well. So I hear you, man. It makes a lot of sense. Day there at 95 is just purely a course history play. Hadn't really shown much form, but he's been an absolute beast here. He's had 4 straight top 5s in his last AT&T starts. Finished top 5 6 of his last AT&T starts. So Day's just a course history beast that you can look at. But Molinari's kind of an interesting pivot there off Spieth and Day.
I'm just going to go on record right now. Other than Zalatoris, I don't like anybody at 9,000 above. I'll just be honest. I know your boy Burns right there at 9,100. Davis, you talked about him all the time at 9,000. But in reality, Zalatoris or nobody from 9,000 above coming from me. That's my stance.
I'll grab some exposure to obviously I'm gonna have some Zalatoris. I'm gonna grab some Molinari as well. And I'm gonna get a little bit of Spieth and Day, man, just because this is such a sicko tournament. And there's not anything that I'm falling in love with as we get on down the scale. So I'm gonna grab a little bit, just in some GPP stuff with those guys. But the 8s are sicko because of some of the guys that are in there, but with what's down at the bottom of the salary scale, man, I'm probably going to be finding myself in the 8s quite a bit. You got Kevin Strielman there at the top, kind of a tried and true veteran. Had a second here last year, finished inside the top 7 each of the last 3 years in this event, and he's coming in with solid form. Had a couple of good starts his last couple times out. Max Homa, I kind of continue to ride, even though his price keeps going up. I was on him last week at 7-8. Probably be back in at 8-8 this week, man. Honestly, he's got a T14 and a T10 in his last 2 AT&T starts. He's really been good with his irons. Gained 5.9 strokes on approach last week. What's been killing him's off the tee. That's not going to be a huge issue this week, as we talked about when we touched on Spieth. So I think you can go to Max Homa here. Henrik Norlander's been playing very well. Doesn't have great course history, but he's improved each start here. Had a T25 last year. Logged a runner-up at the Farmers. Had a T22 last week. T12 at the Amex. I mean, just coming in really good form, playing well tee to green and playing well with his irons. So I think you can certainly look at Henrik Norlander there. And then as you work your way down, you got a couple of guys. Matt Jones is kind of one of those Pebble Beach guys, right, man? He's an Aussie, can play well in the wind, play well in the bad weather. Has good course history here, has played solid this year. And then Matthew Niecemann, the guy that I always want to look at on shorter courses. Kind of think about Harbor Town with him. But this being a sub 7,000 yard golf course, I think you can look at Niecemann. Had a T11 in his tournament debut last year in this event. Gained 6.6 strokes at the Farmers. Gained 4.5 strokes on approach last week. So I think you can definitely look at Matthew Niecemann. This 8K range, it's probably where I'll be camping out for the most part this week, man. These guys, I'm not excited about paying this price for, Andrew, but with what we're facing on down the salary scale, these options start looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's just really hard to peg. You're all over the place on pricing. I mean, you know, Alex Noren is a grinder. He's not going to give up. I don't love him. I don't hate him here at 8,300. Like you said, Matt Jones. There's like 3 tournaments a year that he plays good in. It's always this one was one of them. James Hahn. Let's talk about James Hahn for just a minute. We've always known he's been a great iron player, so putter, and 5 years ago, man, he's one of the best ball strikers on tour. Has some injuries actually on a I guess a medical extension right now. He's got about I don't think they said about 12 tournaments left, 12 weeks left. So noticeably though, his demeanor changed once he took the lead. He basically those guys made 2 bogeys in the first 6 holes, and he's 6 under at the turn, and he's finding himself in a place he hasn't been in a long time, and you could see it on his face when he teed off on 11. It was pretty wild. So, but I'm not saying James Hahn's back, but he's obviously hitting it good. So we might want to sprinkle him in a little bit here at 8,000.
Yeah, it's certainly reasonable, man. He's a guy that that I kind of got on back in the swing season. Kind of going overlooked and coming back off like you mentioned, a major medical, and started playing some really good golf. Kind of at the end of 2020, back in around September, he had a couple of top tens. So that's not a huge out of nowhere surprise last week. He can certainly play well again this week. He's missed his last couple cuts here, but we have to feel like that goes back to the injury issue. So you can certainly look at Hahn. I'm surprised you didn't bring up your boy Mickelson. Had a win here 2 years ago, third last year, runner up, I think back in 2018. And he's a Pebble Beach legend, man. I can't believe you didn't bring up Mickelson there at 86.
I mean, might be coming down with something, but I'm out on these. Long time bets. It seems. I really maybe throwing him out there a couple weeks ago, and then end up walking back on my comments, and then he just played awful, which, So there's that. I don't think he ain't got it. He's done. It's a lot different. You can already tell the difference in being the best player in the tournament and being the 70th best player in the tournament, where he's going to the senior tour or the champions tour and basically dominating, versus coming in this tournament where he's probably like midfield as far as talent level at this age.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of factors I feel like that have helped him to play well here the last couple of years. One factor is that this golf course kind of takes driver out his hand. We know he's kind of been obsessed with bombing it, and this golf course kind of takes that away from him. It almost helps him by taking it away from him, by not giving him a chance to hit the driver as often. And something we mentioned earlier when talking about the course, man, I think the pin placements here, in order to kind of accommodate the amateurs, I think it's been much easier for Phil. He's talked about how easy the pins feel on the Champions Tour compared to the PGA Tour, and that might be a little bit of what we see here. So, and we don't know, how drastically that's going to change with no amateurs, but I think that's probably a couple factors why we've seen Phil be able to continue to play well here. But yeah, man, the form just isn't there. I mean, obviously he can kind of come out of nowhere and play well on this golf course still, but I don't think he's a guy we want to target. But it's just tricky, man. And as we're about to talk about the sevens, there's just not much down there, Andrew. I was looking at our boy Peter Malnati at 78, kind of capitalizing on a really, really strong swing season where he had a couple of top fives, and he's come out swinging in 2021, man. Had a T11, a T11 here last year. Had a T10 at the Farmers, which is extremely impressive on that golf course. So I think we can look at him here. There's a little bit of course history. This doesn't jump out as a Malnati track, but he's played well enough here and is in good enough form to certainly consider in this week's field. Then another one of our guys, Scott Stallings. People get sick of hearing us talk about him, I'm sure, but the guy's played amazing tee to green, and he's played well here. Has a top 10 and a top 5 here over the last 3 years. Has been killing the ball tee to green. You and I have talked about it. We've texted about it. He gained 4.2 strokes tee to green last week. He just hadn't been able to make any putts at all. but Poe is his best surface. He's putted well here in the past, so maybe he can get it going. What do you think from like 75 up to 8K, man? Those are the only two guys I got highlighted in that range.
Yeah, so starting off where you started, I want to say something about Malnati, but I feel like, we missed on the opportunity, right? And I mean, he could continue to play great. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just going off of past results. Players that aren't dominant usually come up, spike up, and they're there for a few weeks and start falling off. Something their game changes or whatever. Definitely, this course does set up perfectly for him. The distance is not going to hurt him. He's a grinder. He gets it up and down. He putts great. So there's that. Moving down past champion Snedeker, can't touch Snedeker.
You want to.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to on a week like this. And I was looking at Russell Knox as well, a couple of top 15s here in his last two starts. And he's shown a little bit of form this year. So I would even lean Knox over Sneds. But, I mean, you want to go there, but, man, you just can't. There's just not been any form at all with Sneds.
Right. And I mean, guys that I normally be on it, Chaz Reavy, Jim Furyk down here, I'm just be passing. I don't know. They seem to play a lot better on really, really hard courses versus the field. And this is just not one of those deals. Now, when you talk about Stalling, 7,500, like you said, people probably get tired of us talking about him, but I was texting you last week. He'd been leading this tournament if he'd just had if he'd have been 0 strokes gain on putting for the week. He was leading this tournament. He did great last week. I know he hit a couple of bad tee shots, but I mean, after watching that on Sunday, it looked like everybody hit a couple of bad tee shots at some point or another. So
yeah, I don't know what's going on Sunday, man. Nobody wanted to win that thing.
If he gets that putter going just for a short period of time, he's going to be up there. And that's what I said last week, and I'll say it again. You're probably tired of me saying it, but the reason I keep on saying it is not because he's from Knoxville, not because I know him, but it's because he's hitting his irons so good. I mean, he's easily top 20 in this field. Shots gained approach, shots gained tee to green, even around the greens. Man, he had a great weekend around the greens. What was he, like top 10 last week? Maybe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're blatant homers with Scott. he's our buddy. So I mean, we're obviously always going to kind of defend him a little bit, man. But the ball striking numbers completely bear it out. When you take that out of the equation, and the ball striking numbers and the course history point in his direction this week for sure. And that's just what I'm not finding as we move on down, man. I'm always looking for that kind of collision of course history and recent form, and it's just not there. I mean, we've got guys with a little bit one or the other. Andrew Putnam was maybe as close as we come as we start going below 75. Had a T38 in his last AT&T start. Had a T7 last week and a T21 at the Amex. Formerly a top 50 player in the world. Lost it, starting to get it back a little bit. He's sixth in the field in strokes gained around the green. So I think he's a guy you can look at there at 74 as the options start to run thin. Bo Hogue coming in hot. He's went T16, T18, T36 over his last three starts. Gained 3.3 strokes on approach last week, but there's really no course history there. Michael Thompson, you can maybe give a look to. Had a T10 here in 2019. He's had a couple of top 25s and a top 5 this year. So that's a guy you can look at. And then you get to the course history guys, kind of like with Sneds, like with Scott Piercy. The course history is amazing, but he's played horrible. Withdrew from the last couple of events, withdrew from the Phoenix Open and the Farmers. Kind of no reason given. Sorry. So you want to look at a guy like Piercy or a guy like Pat Perez, these guys with good course history, but man, you just can't make yourself pull the trigger. But that's pretty much all I got in the 7Ks, man.
Really starts thinning out as you go on down, and nobody really want to play. There's Adam Long, maybe throw him in there. Harry Higgs, Hubbard, guys that can get hot with putters. Surprisingly, Stuart Stink doesn't have great course history here. Surprisingly, usually on these little shorter tracks, Birdie Machine, he usually has had great course history in the past. Does not. Vaughn Taylor, interesting there. We know he can put a few good rounds together. He's won here out of nowhere before. But I don't know. I just don't.
That's
I mean,
tough, man.
I can't tie
That's
my
tough.
boat to any of these guys. Troy Merritt, Keith Mitchell. You could say something about those guys.
There's not much you can say, man. We always try to be honest on this show, if anything. Maybe not always right, but we try to be honest. And as you move below 7K this week, there just isn't much there. There's been a couple weeks already this season where we really, really locked that range. Last week was one of them. And I think that's probably because in an event like the Waste Management on a course like TPC Scottsdale, you're willing to roll with these young guys like a Davis Riley, a Nick Hardy, Will Gordon, Robbie Shelton, some of the guys we always like to talk about. You feel like you want to roll with them on a golf course like that where they can kind of let it all hang out, fire away, try to make a bunch of birdies. And that's just not the case at Pebble Beach, man. So the guys that you want to target are experienced guys that may be showing a little bit of form, but there's just not anything down here, man. And the young, talented guys, a Denny McCarthy, a Davis Riley, Will Gordon, Andy Ogletree's a guy turning pro that's got a lot of talent, but these are guys that either don't have the experience here or aren't a great course fit here. So there's just not much for me below 7. Probably not going to be venturing into the 6s very much. I mean, you could even look at a guy like a Brian Gay. It's kind of a guy that jumps out on this track as far as just it's a fit. He's experienced here, had a couple top 10s here the last few years. So you could maybe give Brian Gay a look. That's really the only name that jumped out to me down there.
Okay, well, no, like I said before, nothing really. Even Joe's boy Denny McCarthy has just not played great this year. Or maybe Pete Rogers is not. This isn't a great track for him because it takes the driver out of his hand, even though he putts great. Same thing with what's the Aussie down here? Badley putts it great. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if he popped up on the leaderboard, but he definitely won't stay there. I can guarantee that.
Yeah,
so,
just all these guys have a butt after you say their name.
Yeah, exactly
you
right.
say their name, but there's an issue there. So, it's one of those things where we'll continue to dig in as we go through the week. Kind of keep an eye out at Rotoballer. On my articles, we might be able to find something over there. Read Spencer's articles. He's very, very good at finding guys in the sub 7K range. He does a great DraftKings article over there that's free, so check that out. But yeah, man, right now I'll be kind of working in the 8s and 9s and the 7s. Is where it looks like I'll be stuck. I'd love to get a DJ in or a can't lay in, but I don't know that I'll be able to because of kind of what's at the bottom of the salary scale this week.
All right, Joe, here it comes into the show. Where's your heart at this week, Joe?
I want to say Spieth so bad. And I took Xander last week. We know how that went. So I again apologize, Bagels. I think I did that to Xander. You know what, man? You said heart play, and I'm just going to go with my heart. It probably doesn't fit, but I really love how the guy's playing. I'm going Will Zalatoris.
Will Zalatoris struggled opening round last week, was well outside the cut line until he teed off in the afternoon on Friday and then just tore it up until till midway through the 4th round. I don't even know where he finished last week, but man,
he had a T17.
Played
go. Really well the second, third round. Not great first and final round, but he's gonna continue to find his way. But what he's been able to do has been super impressive. And like I said, it's really doesn't make a lot of sense because you want to go experience here, course history here. And he's obviously great off the tee, so he's kind of giving that up. So a lot of reasons not to be all in on Zalatoris, but man, I'm just super impressed with the kid. Not blown away by a bunch of the other options here. Obviously, we got DJ and Cantlay, but outside of those, I'm going with Zalatoris.
So I'm gonna lay my heart on the line here. This smells like a Strielman shooting 62 on the final round and winning by 2 shots.
I like that, man. I like that. That fits the mold this week.
This feels like literally a Strielman 65 Sunday coming from 4 back to win. This is what it feels like to me. Wouldn't be surprised if Jordan's up there. Wouldn't be surprised if Day's up there. Wouldn't be surprised if DJ wins by 6 shots.
That could happen.
But I mean, in reality, you're taking driver out of DJ's hand on most of the holes, and really the par fives that are reachable, but it's not really. The greens the way they sit and receive shots. It's not plorable to a big long hitter. So
yeah, I'm more concerned about his finishes of the last couple of years after kind of making this, being on this same schedule, coming straight over from Saudi Arabia and kind of struggling the last couple of years. That's my biggest concern with DJ. But I mean, hey man, the way he's been playing, he could go out there and blow this field away.
Yep. There's no telling. I mean, he's been near perfect since the Masters. Every time he's put a tee in the ground. So that's it. Strielman for me. And you said Zalatoris, even though he's got no course history. But the Twitter will be rampant if Jordan Spieth is in the hunt. You can guarantee that.
I hope he gets there, man. DFS aside, kind of everything aside, I think he's great for the game. And I just want to pull for the dude. So I hope he does play well this week.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in on the Spieth train. You'll be seeing the GIFs all over Twitter. So I'm Andrew Putters. That's Joe Nicely, rotoballer.com. Thank you for everything you do. Remember promo code NICE when looking in. This is the Turn Fantasy Golf Podcast.
That was my first big mistake. I've already hit 3 in the lake. It's gonna drive